Is it too late to take your clicker back? Let's just have the next slide. All right, here's the cheat code. If you can drive in Canada and not get a speeding ticket, believe it or not, coincidentally, the relationship between a mile and a kilometer is 0.62. So if you can drive in Canada and not get a speeding ticket, you can remember one of the main things to remember about balance in design. This is a hollow form I made, and the fattest part of the hollow form is right here. It's 62% of the height, guaranteed, because I went and measured it and measured it and measured it. The base is the, the diameter divided by 1.618. So you use it over and over and over again. Next slide. Oh, by the way, this quote from Mediocrities, yeah, there's nobody named that. That's a joke. See, math is fun. So, here's... Yes. No. 38%. I got the math person over here, got the chemistry person over here. Keep it up. Keep me honest. So here's a question. Is the golden ratio found everywhere in nature? A mathematician will say no. An artist will say yes. Now, I heard a professor, Woodturner, say the distance between the bottom of your nose and your chin versus your teeth and your chin, this is 62%. Your height divided by the elevation of your navel from the floor is the golden ratio. Well, I tested that. And I asked the board of our club, and by the way, not everybody participated. Kate, not to call you out, but Kate. And it turns out that the Northwest Washington Board golden navel is 1.76. So if you're an artist, you'll say, close enough. Close enough. But if you're a mathematician, 66% is not the same as 62%. So we'll talk about that when we talk about the difference between the rule of thirds is basically a simplification of the golden ratio. Let's just accept that. And by the way, is anybody here obsessed with the golden ratio? Somebody who just loves that stuff? I think somebody's lying. Anyway, if you are, you're called a philosopher. See, math is fun. So here's for a hollow form, all you need to do is remember these simple rules. The maximum diameter is 2/3 of the way from the ground or from the tabletop. Simple. Now let me show you what I do. I did this morning. This is a piece of madrone, and I have it spinning on my lathe. And I draw where the bottom of the vase is going to be and the top. And I draw two lines, and one is at 62%, and one's at 66%. And then I leave those two lines alone. And I do this. So from the top of the vase is roughly 1/3. The bottom of the vase is roughly 2/3. So I use both the golden ratio and the rule of thirds.
When you said the bottom part of the bottom thirds, are you smarter than I am, and that includes where you want to come through the bottom of the thing, or is it higher than that?
Well, See what's left of this black line? That's where I will part it out. So what happens when you do this, you start with this and you leave the two black lines in the middle alone. One's the golden ratio, one's the rule of thirds, and you just keep going. And you end up with a very repeatable form. So these are all from the same piece of wood. Thank you, Joel, for the madrone. And if you have a simple rule like that, you can't fail. So I use 62, 66, draw two lines, carve it off, sand it out, easy peasy. So that's for a hollow form. Well, what if I don't do hollow forms? Well, look, a hollow form is just an upside down finial. So if you're going to make a finial, same rules. If you're going to make bottle stoppers, these all follow the same principles. Bottle stoppers are easy. This is one where the fattest part is a third from the bottom instead of a third from the top. This is one with the fattest part a third from the top. Looks great, right? And you can do, this one's kind of like a finial. Another one like a finial. And it's the same thing over and over again. A third of the way up, a third of the way down. Now, I need the next slide. Can we go back to the slide instead of me? Okay, let's go. You're 3 slides ahead. Okay. So now for a bowl, a lot of guys make bowls, right? So simple as this. This bowl, the top of the rim is 2/3 of the overall height. The finial adds a third to the height. The lid is 2/3 of the overall width, the diameter. And then the base is a third of the diameter. So same rule, apply it, apply it, apply it. I'm going to show you another example. This is a big piece of mahogany. The opening in the middle is actually 62%, believe it or not, of the overall diameter. The base is 38% of the overall diameter. And then, you see this inlay? That inlay is 62% from the outside to the inside of the rim. Pretty cool, huh? I donated this to Rotary, and they sold it in an auction for $500. My neighbor has it. My neighbor felt sorry for me because I made it, so he donated $500 to Rotary, and I got bragging rights. Here's another thing you can do. So this is a piece of walnut. It's all ready to go on the lathe. And what I did was I marked out those 2 lines again, 32 and 38, 33 and 38 percent. And that's where the finial is going to be, or sorry, the tenon. So there you grab that and you finish out your bowl. And when you flip it around and you want to finish the bottom, you just carve away the tenon and make your base. Let's see. Oh, now this is a box made by Kate, and it's perfectly 62%. This is golden ratio compliant, right? And you can tell the lid is just in the right place. It just looks good. So here again, you have the same rule applied over and over and over again. And don't like looking at myself. So the rule of thirds is 66%, and the golden ratio is 62 or 2. But here's the punchline. Practice. Get your ruler out and do what I did and just be neurotic about it. Measure it, measure it, measure it. And the more you do that, the more you'll see. This I made 3 or 4 days ago. It looks so much better than the ones I was doing 8 months ago. I have them all on my wall in my shop, and you can see them. I should organize them by which chronologically, because you can see my progression. The more you practice, the better your eye gets. And I think that's something that a lot of us don't appreciate. If you're one of these people that says, well, I'm just not very artistic, stop saying that. You can learn how to see. In fact, this quote from Alan Sturt, if you don't develop an eye, it will be impossible to do good work. That's very important. You develop the eye. Most of us need training, so make pieces, lots of pieces. So, Mr. Picasso, beautiful quote. Learn the rules, comply with the rules, and once you really get a hang of it, do whatever you want. And that is my segue to my friend George. George made this comment about the importance. I mean, you can comply with the golden ratio and still have an ugly piece. So the golden ratio is only one part of the equation of a good-looking piece. You ready, George?
So he didn't really finish up on the Volvo and the Jaguar so well, so I'm going to finish it for him. I think the comment I made was something about continuous curves, which is like you'll be hearing me preach that a lot tonight. And I think I might have mentioned the word Jaguar in terms of cars, because I think their high-end cars are nothing but continuous curves, and they're beautiful. And I think if you looked at those two cars, one might look better than the other to you, I hope. If you choose the Volvo, we'll have a lot to talk about tonight, okay? But where I'm going is the Jag. That's just a beautiful car. So my program is going to start out by the steps of learning. Now, I'm a retired high school teacher, so I can't help but teach people about learning. And the steps that I had that were supposed to be on the screen go like this. Step 1, this is all of us, no matter what we're learning, if it's from the very first we get to it. The first step of learning is it's the last one of his. Supposed to be. There they are. Okay, there they are. Let's go to the next one, please. Next slide.
George, there isn't a next slide.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
That's it.
You were going to put them individually too. No.
Nope.
Okay. Put the whole stack up there then. In any case, the first step is unconscious incompetence. And that's when we just start out doing something and we don't know what we're doing and it's not good. It's incompetent in terms of what we're trying to do. But you know what? I think that might be the most fun stage in all the 4 stages, where you're just horsing around. And I'll never forget looking back 23 years when I started the stuff I gave to people and how delighted they were with these pieces of wood that were pretty terrible looking. And that's how you're feeling in this first stage is, gosh, I can make something. It doesn't take that long, and I give it to my kids, and they love it, and wow. And then you come to these meetings. And so as you spend time learning and you join things like this and you start going to Saturdays and listening to the demonstrators that we bring, you realize what you don't know now. And now it's time to practice, drill, and rehearse. So now you're in the conscious competence stage of learning where you know what you're supposed to do, but you're still not conscious incompetence. I'm looking at the wrong one at the bottom. So now second stage is conscious incompetence. Roger was supposed to have these separated so I wouldn't get confused. Doesn't take much. So now you're consciously incompetent, and now you're practicing and spending time, hours and hours turning, and you end up in the third stage, which is conscious competence. That's where most of us are after a while. Some of us have a hard time moving up to the next ones, but if you're consciously competent, you're doing good work and you know how to do it and you know what you're supposed to be doing, except that you have to think about it as you're doing it. And you're still looking at where the edge of that gouge is relative to where the wood is. And so it's not exactly unconscious yet. But if you keep at it, and this is professional level, I think it's pretty hard to get here unless you are basically a full-time wood turner being professional. But anyone that is a professional has reached the top one of being unconsciously competent, and they just do things automatically and don't even have to think about it. If you think about a Major League Baseball player, they certainly don't have time to think about where that ball's coming from. It's totally unconsciously competent if they can hit it at all. So anyway, those are the stages. So now I guess I don't have any more. Yeah, okay. So now it's audience participation time. And I have some little bowls that I turned. That's eventually going to be up here. There we go. Okay, so if you zoom in a little bit. So there's 4 bowls, and I'm going to ask you to let me know which one you think is the best. Okay, so hands in the air for this one, the best. Well, you like it the best. This is a pure situation where I like that for reasons I don't know, because pretty much everything I say is what I feel when I look at something. And I don't try to objectify it or put a rule on it. It's just, what do I like? So, anybody like this one the best? Okay, just put your hand in. Thank you, Vern. Whew. How about this one? Oh, very good. Okay, so look around. There's a bunch of you. How about this one? Okay, there's some people there that like that one. Good. How about this one? Lots there, too. Now, you're only supposed to choose one, so I don't know. I saw a lot of hands. So... And the question, of course, is why did some of you choose one and the other? And if you think back now of all the stuff that Roger tried to load us with his math, that might have something to do with which one you chose. And I'm guessing, I think it was these 2 got the most, right? And if you look at those, I'd say that there's a pretty good chance that they fit the mold of what Roger was talking about. Would you agree with me? I hope. Both of them. This one straight lines. No. Huh? Volvo. Very good. Oh, thank you. Somebody. And this one, actually, I think this is actually a pretty nice bowl. Just put a foot on it. And speaking of feet, in the past, I have really ranted about feet, like how big they should be. I'm seeing a lot of bowls over there that I hope some of this kind of comes through in terms of there's a reason for so many hands on some of those bowls. And I think you'll remember a lot of them had pretty small feet. There's only two kinds of bowls, really. Open and closed. So, I don't know where I am. Can you zoom in a little bit? Oh, no, you're there. That's where I wanted them. Thank you. Okay, we got it. And so the first ones were really an open bowl, which means that the curve or lack of curve goes up and the curve never meets. That's an open bowl. And those kinds of forms could go all over the place, but it's basically an open bowl. And I'm going backwards. Those were closed bowls. They did go up, and they would close. The curve would actually close. These are classic open bowls, and you can see lots of different kinds of bowls that look like this that just go up, and those curves go forever. Once again, though, there's a difference in these. How many think that this one at the end is the nicest looking one? Back there. What about this one? Okay. And this one. Very good. Roger got it right. That's good. So the only difference basically between these two is this one has straight lines, right? And I'm a continuous curve guy. That's why I like that Jaguar and a lot of other things that have continuous curves. And you'll see with Ray's program that he talks a lot about continuous curves, or at least this kind of it goes there. So think about that when you're thinking about the shape of your bowls now, and try to keep from putting a lot of straight lines. If you can keep away from that, your pieces will look better for reasons I cannot tell you. Period. Okay, we got two more shapes coming up. This is for Roger. So you get to vote on these. Okay, here we go. So this would be a classic hollow form. There's one more. Where did this come from? Okay, this has to be in there. Okay, one more time. Here we go. You want to zoom in? Okay, this one. Got one. How about this one? Yeah. This one? Okay, not bad, not bad. This one? Very good. class. You're doing very well. And this one, I'll get it. No, nobody. Okay, and hopefully the reason you didn't choose this one is because of those straight lines. Did you pick up on that? That's not really what you want to go. And this one seemed to be the winner. Is that right? And hopefully it's because of two things. It seems to follow the phi or rule of thirds, and it's continually curved. There's curves everywhere it goes. And the base is nice and small. Can't forget that part of it, because you may or may not have consciously thought about it, but this one, the base is just bigger than it should be. Look, this one doesn't follow the rule of thirds or golden mean at all. It's just the big part is right in the middle. And that has to do with the rule of thirds, which is in a lot of places other than what we're doing. I used to teach advertising and print media. A third of the way down a page is what we call the focal middle. And if you want a headline in something where the I goes first, it's a third of the way down a page. Video, which I also spent some time doing, has viewfinders sometimes that are broke up into what is like a tic-tac-toe that's in the viewfinder. And I think our phones now give you an option where you see this tic-tac-toe lines in the viewfinder. That's because they want you to put the highlights of whatever it is you're videoing where those lines are, especially where they cross at the top. That's where the faces are going to be. When you look at video now, you'll notice that it's a third of the way down and a third of the way over, because that's what our eyeballs are just, our brains are just automatically designed to think. So in this one, this is a pretty good one. You guys didn't buy into that one, but it's because that one has a nicer curve, I think. Okay, one more. This will be an OG. And an OG is a combination of curves. And I just recently did an OG curve on a bowl. I found it. Okay. Okay, so this is the OG curve, so at the bottom. No? Okay. I'm going to start over here. Well, this one, who thinks this one at the end is the best looking OG curve bowl? Okay. How about this one? Oh, okay, very good. And this one. Okay. One of the books I have up here by Richard Raffin shows all kinds of different curves, and he kind of tells you why he thinks one are better than the other, one is better than the other. And he would probably say this one because he likes them squished down. OG curves, I think he thinks should be all real flat type bowls if they look the best. This one I don't think he would like at all. The one you chose is very nice. So it's kind of a in between the real flat type of bowl and the top high ones that don't really lend itself so much to an OG curve, according to him. And if you don't know Richard Raffin, he's the king of design, I guess you might say. Yes. Are you saying that this curve is different than this curve? Oh. Sure. I don't know how I'm doing for time.
This continuity looks like it's right about there. On this one, it looks like it's right about there, or it just makes a sudden change.
Okay. Well, I purposely made this to look bad. Okay, so not necessarily consciously what you just said, but it turns out that way, that I said this isn't how an OG should look. So you did just fine. Yes. Okay. Well, I tried to make lots of different sizes of the feet because I was hoping that some of them, at least, you would say, I don't like that one because the foot is too big. And I don't know if that crossed your mind at all when you were looking at these things, but that was my intent. The height. Oh, okay. So the height of the foot is a design function. I'm here to talk about form and only form. Yeah. So yeah, you can do lots of stuff with designing stuff. And the difference in my mind is, I think I have one up here someplace. So I did this one. That's the first one I did. I turned. And I did the thing a lot of new turners do, is they stopped at some point and put a little bead in there. And I noticed some of my 23-year-old bulls have stuff like that we do because we can. And it sort of looks like a design function. And we're excited about designing our own pieces. So we put beads and grooves and do all kinds of stuff like that. If you look at some of the masters, and I think I have, well, here's one, it's a perfect bowl. There's very few of the really top-end turners that do stuff like that. Just because we can put a little groove in there, we don't necessarily have to, especially if the wood is a nice looking piece of wood. So remember, this is me. I like wood. And so I don't like to mess with doing much to it other than make it look nice, just the wood. So there's lots of just nice continuous curves in the pieces that I turn. That's just me, but it didn't come out of nowhere because I've read an awful lot of books, and I've read, and I bought some books that have the masters, old book, Beneath the Bark. It's a great book. I have 2 books of the masters, and then the new masters is a book too that has been done. The problem with the new masters, and this is where a lot of wood turning is going, as you probably see if you see the AAW journal, is on the artistic side. So here's a whole nother issue. is what we do in art or a craft. And if you go to an art gallery, they may say, we're not interested because what you do is a craft. It's not an art. We like pictures or sculptures. Well, now, if you look at some of the real top-end wood turners, a lot of them are carving them and doing all kinds of embellishing and just some wild-looking stuff, where I know one of the French wood turners, 90% of what he does to his wood pieces are carving and 10% making a form. So, you know, it's kind of going into the art side of things. And I think we're making inroads to where people are appreciating it more and more. The fact that a lot of our stuff is artistic as opposed to just functional stuff. And you know how I feel about functional stuff. Although my bowls do not tip over, you still don't have to have these great big bases on them. Okay, they still won't tip over if you stick with a third. So my rule is a third. The bottom of your base should be about a third of the widest part of your bowl, wherever that is. And if you stick with that, I can guarantee you one thing: you'll probably like the looks of it better. So this is a bowl that I turned 20 years ago. Friend just died, gave it back to me. Wife gave it back. I looked at the bottom, 06. I didn't know I could turn anything 20 years ago, but I guess I did. And if you look at that, this is kind of going away from any of the rule of thirds, except for the bottom. It's more or less a sphere, which is something that I haven't talked about and don't have much to say because it's not in any books. Not many people in the form business talk about spheres, but this is almost a sphere. But the bottom is about a third of the overall diameter, and it will not tip over. I mean, I just promise you, you can put a lot in there, it's not going to tip over. And the other thing I've preached is that when you look at a piece, you should be able to see the entire curve of the bowl. And if that's something you want to do, where you look at it and the curve is obvious, then the only way you can do that is to put a small base on. You cannot put a big wide base on a bowl and see the whole curve. The curve goes under the table someplace, okay? So just something to think about. If there's, you know, a possibility you want to up your kind of good looks, I'll tell you, in the early days of my turning, my goal was to make gallery quality turnings. And so I spent time in galleries and in books, and to the point where I finally was able to go walk into a gallery and they accepted my work, and I had a whole wall in art gallery in town, in Anacortes. So it does work. Yes, Ray. No, he died. But he was an art teacher, so I couldn't just give him anything, right? So, and I was really pleased that, anyway, I was able to do that. So I'm going to look at some notes now. Yeah, we got a show time done. Form and art design. I think we've done it all. Okay. Well, thank you. Thought you'd never ask. No rules. I turned this out of Madrone years ago. Didn't ever finish it. I thought it looked so good. I'm just putting it on my display rack, and that's where it's going to stay, because I think this is an absolutely beautiful little piece. And it's real lightweight. It's just delicate and nice. And even though it doesn't fit into all of our formulas, Oh, well, you break the formula once in a while, it turns into an art piece. Okay, thank you. Hello. See if it works. For some reason, I have two.
Okay, my portion of the presentation tonight is on design inspiration from the natural world. And in many ways, that should be pretty easy because nature's been humanity's first and foremost teacher of visual delight. But before we get into the details and the examples, I thought I would take a quick step back and just ask, what makes something beautiful? I mean, that's the aim of tonight's thing, is trying to make our various turnings beautiful, or at least better than they were. Let's see, let me check this out. Which one of these buttons am I supposed to push? Oh, I did. Okay. Well, it's not a simple question, obviously. I think I just went forward one. Okay. There we go. I'll quit. Anyway, not a simple question. My wife asks the mirror that every morning for decades now. She hasn't gotten an answer. But seriously, Joanne, I'll probably hear before I even get home. People have been asking this question for thousands of years. And if you thought that there are a lot of design books, you should see how many beauty books there are trying to explain what constitutes it. Beauty's not a property that you can just go out, pull a gizmo out of your pocket and measure. So it makes it somewhat difficult. But it is the kind of complex and mysterious interaction between a sort of a perceiving mind and a perceived object. But research has been able to identify a set of properties, visual properties that seem to consistently cause people to get a positive reaction. And we're going to take a look at certain of those properties now. However, I would say that they're not arbitrary. In other words, it's not just an individual thing. Various cultures and over various centuries have consistently been able to show that some of these properties reliably give a positive response. Well, symmetry is the first one. It's probably the most powerful visual property that has a positive influence on a person's subjective look at a particular object. There are a lot of different symmetries and some of them overlap, but tonight we're just going to take a quick look at three of them: bilateral symmetry, radial symmetry, and spiral symmetry. Bilateral symmetry is particularly powerful, and everybody, I mean, it's everywhere in nature. You all recognize these, I hope, as bilaterally symmetrical. Left and right side are mirror images of each other. This maple leaf is, if you bisected it vertically and looked at the two halves, they're essentially identical, not quite. And here, this fellow obviously shows the inspiration for this piece. But if you'll notice, the piece is not exactly symmetrical. It's very close. And I emphasize close and not exact, because if you're trying to mimic nature, and nature is rarely perfect, if you make it exact, it kind of gives it that mechanical, stamped out, stiff feel, sort of boring, actually. What was that? What? And as I was saying, I'm unconsciously incompetent. Oh, broke it, yeah. There you go. Well, this is fairly typical because just recently, Roger and I have been having our share of problems. I think we'll go back just a bit. Oh, there we go. Very good, thank you. This is another take on maple leaves. But before we go on, I just wanted to hasten to add that bilateral symmetry, or any of the other symmetries for that matter, don't guarantee beauty. It's just one component. This is Exhibit A. This is the southern end of a northbound toad. Note the symmetry. This is Exhibit B. This is a stargazer fish who appears to have been designed by a committee that hated fish. But both of them are symmetrical, and neither of them would sell well as a decorative item. So it's good to keep in mind that there are other factors. George talked about balance and proportion. There's also a whole lot of sensory factors like color, texture, pattern, light and shadow, negative space, and so on. So even though the symmetry may be important, and often it is, it's just one factor. We'll go on to radial symmetry, which is just, it's a wood turner's symmetry, I suppose, because a lathe, by virtue of its function, generates radial symmetry, which is symmetry around a point where you can draw a line through its diameter in any direction, and you divide it into two mirrored halves. So as a wood turner, you can pretty easily envision making a platter that looks a lot like these lily pads, except you may not want to include that edge around the perimeter. Or maybe you would, if you have that sort of uncomfortably clumsy relative. We all have one. And you might generate something like this. And these are olive wood plates. sort of the grand champion of radial symmetry is often the sea anemone. So you can just go down to your local tide pool and take a look at one of these guys. It's got that comforting round shape and a whole bunch of tentacles on its periphery. My mic button? Oh, okay. It might yield a piece looking something like this. Or this. And Paul Anderson, if you're around, pay attention. I think he may have left, though. The last symmetry that we're going to talk about is spiral symmetry. This is, again, the symmetry around a point. This is with something that Mother Nature is really good at, and those are logarithmic spirals. And they can be from small plants like this aloe to the Milky Way galaxy, and other spiral galaxies that are thousands of light years across. Okay. We'll get there, I hope. Maybe you could just do a next. There we go. This is a piece by Paul Petrie, and he simply titled this "Spiral Symmetry." Bit too plain, but it made it a snap finding this slide on Google, taking advantage of the aesthetics of a spiral. And this is another piece of Paul's showing both the front and the back. And he called this one supernova. So obviously he was thinking in astronomical terms. If we come back to Earth, we can look at the spiral of a snail shell. A developing tendril. Here's a chameleon's tail. He just appears to be kind of showing off. Did I do that again? Yeah. There we go. This is one of Bill Ohm's pieces. Shows a nice spiral on the top. This was just a larger bowl with a spiral around it that has alternating texturing. And here, I don't know if you can appreciate this. This is a great lobelia plant from Mount Kilimanjaro, and it does a pretty good job of showing the logarithmic spiral of the leaves as they're spreading out from it. That may be a little bit more apparent on a top of a pine cone. And if you look carefully, you'll see spirals in both directions. It's the same pattern that you see on a sunflower head. And it turns out that Mother Nature is pretty clever. This particular pattern of interlocking spirals is the most efficient way to arrange the seeds with limited space around them, but not extra space. so it adds structural stability to the sunflower head. And this piece, this coliform was done by Michael Foster. I don't know how many of you are familiar with him. It shows the clockwise and counterclockwise spirals. And when I looked at it and I saw the detailing and the precision of all his work there, I thought for sure he was some sort of mechanical engineer. I was wrong. He's a dentist. This is another one of Michael's pieces. He's fairly into the Fibonacci sequencing, and this just shows his inspiration, the Fibonacci inspiration or obsession. He's made dozens of these pieces. Here's one by the late John Jordan, which shows very pleasing spiral form and just excellent grain and color with a perfect matching of the sapwood and hardwood surfaces and a great just external form. Now, although Mother Nature's very good at doing logarithmic spirals, it also does what they sometimes call arithmetic spirals or Archimedean spirals, which mean that the spiral lines don't diverge from each other very far. So this is a good example. It's a millipede as it coils up to take a nap. And here's a couple Archimedean holoforms that really don't hold water, but I say that only in a good way. And here's a nice Bubinga piece done by Bill Wyko. Just shows multiple open spirals. The last of the spiral examples I was going to show is this one. The bowl form really hasn't been altered at all. The only thing that has changed is the exterior texturing, and even the bottom of the base has a spiral, so that he apparently had no room to sign his name to it. We don't know who did this one. Well, no discussion of spirals is complete without at least mention of the humble Nautilus, which seems to be the poster child for nature's spirals and the associated mathematics. This is a shot of the live animal, but you're more likely to see it cut in half, where the shell's cut in half. And there's two examples, and I brought this one as well. Just if you want to take a look at it afterwards, just be very careful. It belongs to my neighbor. There's a handful of Nautilus species that are still around now. So the shells look very slightly different, but all of them are easily recognizable by that pretty elegant spiral. And the self-similar but gradually increasing size of the chambers. Well, we won't go into a whole lot of math, but just to let you know that this is what they call, Roger was talking about the golden ratio. You can also talk about golden rectangles. This is a golden spiral. And for each 90-degree rotation of the spiral, it increases its radius by a factor of 1.618. Hope that sounds familiar. So it's just a mathematically derived spiral. And here, showing how it develops. Let me back that up just briefly. The question is, does this spiral, well, I'll just say that this spiral is often cited by philosophers as the source or the way that nautilus shells are developed. But is that true? Well, no, it doesn't seem to be true. Here we have two identical nautilus shells, and one is overlain with a golden spiral. And note how close it matches. Not really all that close. Other logarithmic spirals come a whole lot closer, but have nothing to do with the golden ratio. So I'll leave it to you to decide on the credence you want to give to the Nautilus Fibonacci story, but it suggests that you don't bet heavily on it at a cocktail party. However, the Nautilus does get a lot of attempts at interpretation by both turners and non-turners, and these were just a couple of examples. The one on the left is actually a segmented turning. One of the other common aesthetic curves found in nature is the S-curve, basically, and the swan, of course, is sort of the archetypical S-curve person or thing. And it turns out that in most cultures, swans and related birds are sort of positively viewed and accepted warmly, and even with some kind of comical almost treatment. But they don't seem to extend that. I mean, you notice the nice curves there, but they don't extend it to snakes for some reason, even though the snakes have a much higher number of these very elegant curves. However, you do occasionally in various shows and galleries see these nice undulating forms. And I have to admit, I cheated here a little bit. I didn't realize that until this morning when I was reviewing the slides. This was not a turned item. This was power carved. So sorry about that. Sharks do a great job of showing a nice smooth curve. Here are some OGs like the ones that George showed us. And I think we may get some disagreement on the one on the left. I don't know if Richard Raffin would accept that as a proper OG, but I don't know, it looks pretty good to me. Well, in the interest of time, we really aren't going to be able to go over the other factors other than to just mention them. If you look at duplication, it's commonly seen in nature, like these basalt columns. And you can also see it in these two turned pieces with vertical, what would we call these? Elements. Texture, ubiquitous in nature. Everything's got a texture, and obviously very critical to a lot of turnings as well. Negative space, which oftentimes gets overlooked or even kind of underappreciated. And of course, color, which again is critical to most turnings. And in this case, this is a hybrid turning, but I think they both show some pretty serene reflective symmetry. In summary, I'd just like to encourage people to sort of keep their eyes and mind open. Did I do that again? Or maybe so. Maybe not. There we go. All right, who's playing with me? Stay there. You can find some pretty amazing symmetry if you look for it. You may find something as beautiful as that woman. No, as beautiful as that lobster claw flower that she is holding. That really was the projector. Okay. Don't worry, we're almost done. Okay, so we just want you to appreciate the symmetry, texture, maybe even the Fibonacci branching of the trees, if you're into that, even though our little group here has pretty much felt that it's overhyped. So if your view is expansive or if it's fairly small, just keep your eyes open and you'll find it all over the place. I'll end with a quote from Vincent van Gogh. If you truly love nature, you'll find beauty everywhere. And I think that's it.
Hello. So these were our goals. We didn't want to cover everything. There's 100,000 books, and we didn't even cover one. Every one of these books is overwhelming in terms of how much information and different aspects of beauty and aesthetics. Come join me, gentlemen. Don't leave me up. Don't leave me hanging. So we wanted you to learn one new thing, see one new thing, and the application being go try one new thing. So the question is, did we succeed? Do you have any questions? Any comments? High praise. Thank you, Rick.
It looks like most everyone's still here. That's pretty cool.
Tell me something you learned. Tell me something you saw. I see that hand.
Rules are very, very simple.
Right.
The difference between the way I see the states.
Right. Yeah. Every one of these books references photography as well. There's a lot of overlap. All righty. I see that hand. Hold on, Joel, just a second.
I've used the golden ratio numerous times and things like that, but I've never thought to use the gold around. So this is
Yeah. Well, I've made probably in my life, I've probably made 1,000 bottle stoppers. And the reason they're awesome is because you can't lose. Just don't make them too big because they won't fit in the refrigerator. But it's a classic, it's not going to have a function. It's not a bowl. It's just something that sits on top of a piece of metal. And so you go hog wild, and it's small enough. If you screw it up, you throw it away, you get another piece. But over and over and over again, you have the opportunity. That's why I love doing these. It's a perfect project for a brand new turner. Joel, you going to say something?
seen the map you applied, especially to your form, the total showing these filling
Right. One thing I want to close with is this mental challenge for you. You see how beautiful this is? This is a perfectly compliant golden ratio piece. And I did that with all sorts of neurotic intent. Completely neurotic, okay? I confess. But what I find interesting is I really like this. What I don't like is this. But it's the same shape. Isn't that weird? So I asked my wife why she thought that. And for her, it was very simple. 40 years ago when we got married and I was running every day, I looked like this. And 40 years later, so that's a lesson learned. See, I do agree with George that it's all about the form. And there was actually, I saw a picture that I Googled, and it was a guy, it was the Fibonacci stomach. And it was the big, just because it complies with the golden ratio doesn't mean it's beautiful. Yeah. This looks like a lava lamp. I mean, really. Okay. I think it's time to move on to the raffle. Am I right? So we'll go straight into that. If you need to take a break, that's fine. But we try to move along with the raffle fairly quickly. So Dave's in charge of that. He'll be taking us through it.